Yeah. I would like to make a custom theme song for this show. A host called Poduty in the news. Each week the host Jeff Revilla shares news stories about live podcasting and live streaming. On episode 2, I covered the following topics: setting up your home recording studio on a budget, pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll ad placements, cybersecurity, live podcast. Shaq hosted a live podcast. Shaq hosted a live podcast.
Thanks for coming out, battling the WrestleMania crowd and the Easter, all the traveling going on today. I do have some. I have some interactive slides. These are fun. I don't record your name or your information. Don't worry, I already got it when you did your tickets, so don't worry about that. This is anonymous. You can put a fake name in if you want, but I have some fun slides that are interactive, like your experience level. Helps me gauge the how I should take the direction of the show. This is our 6th, I think, Pittsburgh podcast meetup. Typically, it's about a 20-person event. Like I said, I think we have some competition today, which is okay. We're having a good time. A lot of people with family traveling. My agenda for tonight, like, what are we going to do tonight? What is the Pittsburgh podcast meetup? One, you've already experienced the first hour where I fed you, right? That's part of the fun. You get some really good pizza. In fact, the less amount of people that come, the better the pizza quality is, because I have a certain budget, so you get really good J&S pizza tonight. If there's 25, 30 people planned for, you get Foxes. So if you want to call ahead and say, hey, how many are coming next week, let me know. I got some news updates. I'm starting this podcast called Poduty in the News. I wanted to call it Poduty Lewis in the News, but I figured that might get a copyright violation by American Psycho, the movie. We have Get to Know You. We got a series of interactive questions I'll be asking. And then I'm going to go into, like, why did I do this? Like, why am I here in Tarentum with this little 40-seat theater? It's only 3 rows deep and this, like, boomerang shape. It really brings you in. If you like me and you're having fun, click the little thumbs up. The thumbs down, I'll cry. But the heart, the cat, I don't know why there's a cat. So you can click the kitty cat. I don't know why. Somebody's having a meow good time. And then there's questions at the end, too. So if you're sitting here thinking you don't want to interrupt because I'm really having a great flow and the energy's good, and you can click that little question button. I think it's open up questions when you tap it. Look at that. You can type a question at the end of the slides. They'll be there waiting for us. So the news. So Poduty in the News is a new podcast I'm starting. I want it to be a live news source. Unfortunately, I'm getting old and I have to wear glasses now. I just got these. I haven't even worn them on stage yet. And I also still print out in 18-point font. So this is where you're sitting at right now, which is right where that dehumidifier is, was what this place looked like 1 year ago yesterday. So when I came in here, this was a men's clothing store that was abandoned. We started tearing things up. It's hard to believe that this that you're sitting in fits in this that you're looking at here. And this was exactly a year ago yesterday. And then by the first Tarentum night market was May 8th or 9th. Within, 2.5, 3 weeks, we were at this, right? So now, for months, I was gathering all these things that you see around me and storing them in my basement and driving my wife crazy. There was these chairs we got from a Catholic school that went out of business for $2 a piece. The stage I bought from a karate school in Greensburg. There's actually a 4th section. The truss came. I had to buy that. That was cash. And then MacBid became a big part of my life at this time last year. All the lighting you see, I got for $30 on MacBid. All the pipe and drape, which is like $170 frame, I was buying these for $30, $40 at a pop. So I got MacBid also does a year in review like Spotify does. So I got I'll pull it up later if you don't believe me. But I got my MacBid year in review because last year is when I invested all this for this theater. I saved $5,000 buying all these things that you're sitting in from MacBid compared to buying it at retail. So I probably spent like $800 to $1,000 total to like accessorize this area. And you can see there's not a ton of stuff in here, but the retail value of everything I purchased was over $5,000. So my year in review was pretty crazy. The reason why we had the stage had to get ready for was May 9th or something of last year was Tarentum does a night market. And up until last year, they closed off all these streets in front of us. Food vendors, artists, crafters, musicians, DJs, a nice party atmosphere. And so we wanted to get something ready to show the public. Uh, this year, unfortunately, for the business owners, they're moving it down to the river along First Avenue. So they're going to close off that main road, and we'll be 2.5 blocks away. I'm still planning some live shows for that night and have a little party atmosphere. But we should it'll still be a good time. So if you're in the area, you can walk down the street, get a funnel cake and a falafel, and then come on back. You can eat in here. I don't even care if you go next door to Praha and get a beverage, a tasty beverage, and bring it back over. Now let's get into the news. Poduty in the news. This is a live podcast recorded live about live podcasting news. In our first story tonight, I'm filing under a question one of you will ask tonight. I guarantee it. If you're just starting out in podcasting, setting up a home studio doesn't have to break the bank. The team at Fireside, if you go to Fireside's blog.fireside.fm, they shared some tips on creating a quality setup for under $300, covering everything from choosing the right microphone to treating your recording space. It's a perfect guide to help new podcasters sound professional from day one. So it's a great resource. I'll have all the links for you, too, at the end of this. I can send them to you through email. But it goes through lighting and soundproofing and microphones. It's a good little resource to get you started. A lot of times, when we get asked this question, like, what should I do to get started? And I say, what do you have? What do you have right now? Like, this is something that you're experimenting with. It's something that you're interested in. It's something that you're moving towards trying to do regularly. And if you have just a cell phone and you're going to record audio on a cell phone, you can get little wireless lavalier mics that are decent. They're good enough for what you're doing right now. You can get a USB mic for a laptop or a computer. And there's ways to capture audio with free software like Audacity. We can get into all that in the Q&A section. But what I try to teach people is you have enough to do a podcast right now. What you really need to work on is, how do I repeat this week after week? That is just as important as a lot of times you'll spend 6 months on planning this podcast. I'm gonna do it like this, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do this, and then you release it finally, and then you realize, oh, I only have 7 days now. I spent 6 months to do the first one. Now I got to do that in 7 days. So what I try to show people is the process in which you record. How do you find guests if you're going to do interviews? How do you get to the recording down so that you can edit it? How do you edit it, right? All these things, I say you want to budget about 6 to 8 hours a week at a minimum to have a decent show. And there's enough tools out there now in the last 2 years. There's enough AI enhancements to almost do a good portion of your editing for you. So I'll send you the links. This is a great source, blog.fireside.fm. And I'm going to file this under the second most popular question that you'll ask tonight is it comes into making money with a podcast and revenue. And a lot of times you hear about pre, mid, and post-roll ads, right? What are they and how do they use them? Well, Poduty came up with this blog describing each of the locations on your blog or in your podcast. So let's talk about podcast ads, specifically pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll. This guide from Poduty breaks down what each ad type means and how to place them effectively in your episodes. Whether you're just starting or planning to monetize, understanding ad placement is key to boosting your revenue. And a big part of this, they start to tell you, your upfront ad, your pre-roll comes right before your show. And that's obviously going to be the most listened to ad on your podcast. Maybe it's the highest real estate. Maybe it commands more of the higher dollars because people have to listen to that before they get to your episode. Then the mid-roll is usually great for breaks in your content. If you're transitioning to a different subject, or like I do a trivia show between round 1 and round 2 and round 3, that's a good place for some mid-roll breaks. And then the post-roll is typically when people start tuning out. This is maybe an add-on. This is something that you would focus on, as a giveaway maybe, or something. You can sell it, but keep in mind your audience retention is high early, and it drains the whole time. If you have a YouTube channel and you publish YouTube videos, you certainly see those first 30 seconds are 60, 70%. Then it gets to 50. And if you can hold at 50, you're great. But most of the time you're dropping down to like 33, 25% by the end of the show. So these are things you need to learn about. They're not things that you have to focus on, but we have a lot of focus on advertising at the Pittsburgh Podcast Meetup. all right, let's file this something under, this can be a live show. Now, a lot of times I look for what's happening out there. We know that live podcasts are becoming a thing. Pittsburgh just had the Pat McAfee show, which is a more of a radio show that filled up the PPG Paints Arena, and it was a radio show with a bunch of nonsense, and different acts came in, and it was something. It was a radio personality, a TV personality filling an arena. We see shows like Kill Tony. We see Whitney Cummings. We see Bill Burr doing these live podcasts at different theaters, different arenas. Sometimes they're doing a comedy stop and they're going to do a podcast before. Like Doug Loves Movies is a podcast that's been going on for years where Doug Benson does comedy stops all throughout the country all year long. And prior to one of his shows, he'll record an episode of Doug Loves Movies with the other comedians either on the show or whether they're in town. And he's utilizing like the afternoon space at a comedy club for free, right? He's probably getting a little kickback on the tickets, getting a little kickback on the bar and the food, but that's typically not a time that a comedy club is busy. So he took an idea of, how do I do a live podcast where I'm already going to be performing there that night? I'll just use the earlier time. And so he's recording a show, then doing a comedy act. It's a great routine. So we know that these live events are happening. We know that people are starting to go see live podcasts. And this one was just about, I think, security. Like the CISO Series podcast is going live in Boston on May 15th. It's a cybersecurity focused show. Will feature audience participation, expert guests, and behind the scenes look at recording a live episode. It's a great example of how podcasts can thrive in front of crowds. Now, you wouldn't think like, oh, I'm going to go see a cybersecurity podcast live, but there's different genres doing different things. And last week we had Jessica was here doing audio dramas, which is even a thing I thought about, but she sent me a list of all these audio dramas, and I'm like, this stage is like perfect. I turned on all the lights. You start doing a storytelling podcast. You have actors acting out different things. And just like when you listen to a podcast in your earbuds or on your morning commute, and you all of a sudden you feel pulled into that room that you're sitting in there with the hosts, that you're like, oh, I'm right there with, like, I really know these people now. Could you imagine sitting in a dark room hearing a story being told on the stage? There's a whole wealth of different genres that can do these live podcasting. And cybersecurity wasn't even on my bingo card. So when the CISO series is going to Boston, check them out. We also have another live one everybody loves, Shaq Diesel. This was on April 5th, so filed under We Missed It, right? I'm going to file this one under We Missed It. With the NCAA Final Four descending on Antonio, Shaq brings his podcast, The Big Pod with Shaq, to the Alamo City. The former San Antonio Cole High School player in his show will be in San Antonio April 5th, which I mentioned 3 times already. He'll share stories, have giveaways, make guest appearances, and offer fans a chance to win tickets to the NCAA. Now, you're not going to be able to do that because it's 2 weeks past, but this is Shaq doing his podcast live in front of audience. Now, he's a celebrity. He's going to have a bigger name. He's going to draw a lot easier. And we'll get into like why I think like where you're sitting at is a crucial part of live podcasting. Because if you look at this, it wasn't a huge stage. It wasn't a huge audience, but it was a fun time. It was a hangout time. It was an experience to be able to sit, 4 rows away from Shaq and hear him. Shaq is pretty funny and just is great timing, great nonsense. Like he really says some crazy off the wall things. It would be a great time to be that close and seeing how Shaq works. See how he thinks in the moment and what some of his responses are. And you don't get that when you upload an MP3 file and your audience downloads it. They don't get any of this. They don't get to see your face. They don't get to see how you think in the moment. But in a live performance environment, they're seeing all of that. And let's go. We were talking about a little bit of money, right? So this is a statement that a lot of people say to me. I want to monetize my podcast. This is either to be profitable or just cover your expenses. Is this something that you've thought about? When we start talking about ads, right? We were talking a little bit about host-read ads. We were talking about pre, mid, post-roll ads. When most people think about podcasting, they're talking about these host-read ads or pre, mid, and post-roll ads. That's kind of how we think about monetizing a podcast. And what does that look like? What will I make some money doing that? And this isn't to be Debbie Downer or to knock wind out of your sails. This is stats from Buzzsprout. Libsyn has a very similar model. They'll tell you about the same numbers. If you listen to The Feed as Libsyn's podcast, they're one of the original podcast hosts back in 2005. They have a great podcast called The Feed. If you listen to it, it comes out every other week. But they'll tell you in the top 5%, I don't know if I can get a little red line, top 5% of podcasts in the first 7 days get 1,100 downloads per episode. So if you're less than 1,000, you're less than the top 5%. If you're more than 1,000, you're probably in the top 2, 3, 4%. It really skews this much. And when we think about what does this mean? If I'm going to sell ads, right? Is that enough to make any money, right? The way podcast ads are sold, it's in a CPM, a cost per thousand. So if you can get 1,000 downloads, you can do an ad read for about $21, $25 per spot. So if you do, one or two ads, you could do, $50. There's other things you can do. And I'm just using this as a generic entertainment type of podcast. You figure like $20 per thousand on average. And you can sell multiple of those. And you can even do bundles. You could even sell like for a month. You could sell banner ads. You could sell placement in your email. But typically, if you're not getting 1,000 downloads, like most podcasters, let's just say you sell one ad for your podcast, you can get $20 per the 1,000 downloads. So is that enough? Well, if you have 4 podcasts a month, that's $80 a month. That'll certainly cover your expenses. They'll cover your hosting, your website hosting, and any kind of little maybe software you want for streaming. That's a good amount to take this from a hobby that's costing you money to a hobby that you're at least breaking even. So the barrier to podcasting is pretty low. Right? You get hosting for, I showed you, Transistor starts at $15, and that's unlimited podcasts. You can create multiple podcasts there. Libsyn starts at $5, gets really good around $15 for Libsyn. So getting an ad and 1,000 downloads is pretty good, and you cover all your expenses. And if 95% of podcasters aren't getting 1,100 views, that's $20 per thousand. We're talking $20 per episode. And that takes 1,000 people. So what does it take to get 1,000 people? Some of you have been doing more than 10 episodes, and it takes a while to get to 1,000 downloads an episode. It's a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of repetition over and over again. And if you think of it in that regard, somebody's downloading and listening. It's 2 cents per listener. It's kind of what you make whenever you have 1,000 downloads and you sell an ad. 1,000 people divided by the $20 is 2 cents per download. And I'm not trying to get real numbers heavy here, but I think, look at this guy. I think there's a better way. There's certainly an art form to this. There's an entertainment. It's a discipline. We talk about that structure is more important than your equipment right now if you're starting out. What happens when you start thinking about events like this as a live event? What podcasting as a live event? And we know other forms of entertainment. People go out to see it. Like when you want to go see a comedian, you go to a comedy club. When you want to go see a musician, you go to a bar or a venue. People understand that. But we know what's happening when we talk about these other podcasts filling theaters, filling arenas. This is emerging as a new form of entertainment. This is emerging as something people will do to go out at night. It's not $1,000 Taylor Swift ticket. It's here it's a $10, $20 ticket. Some of those theater arena shows are $50, $60. They're not overly expensive tickets for the amount of entertainment that you get. You get so much more out of a live podcast than you do out of when you just upload your file to your server, and then the podcast apps get notified that there's a new episode, and you're on your way into work tomorrow or on Monday, you download the episode and you listen to it, right? All you get from that is in 7 days, you go look at your stats, and it says, I got X number of downloads. That's a little bit more than last time. That's the amount of feedback you get. But when you're doing live shows, you're meeting your fans face to face. Like they're putting a face to that voice too. Because if you think about all the shows you've ever listened to, try to picture what that host looks like and then go find them. You've never been right on guessing what somebody looks like just from their voice. It's not even possible. Your fans are giving you real-time feedback. They're like you're crossing your arms or like the body line. No, I know. The body line or looking at your phone right? These things are all things that you're getting. You're getting feedback. So am I a good host? Am I entertaining you? Are you laughing and smiling? And I don't get that when I just get a download number at the end of 7 days. And you see people thanking people afterwards. When the Crips and Corks were here, afterward they hung out for an hour afterwards talking to the people that were here. They were thanking them for doing the show, for entertaining them, for putting all the time into putting this together. They hang out afterwards. Like it becomes like this little community when you perform in front of people. And the instant credibility, we talked about this earlier. We didn't expect any of this. That whenever you say and you start promoting the show, hey, we're going to be live on the main stage at the Poduty Podcast Theater, June 12th. That's my birthday, so come hang out. We're going to be on the main stage. It's a live show. Tickets are available now. To everybody that you've told that you had a podcast, it changes the way they think about you, because they're like, oh, they have a podcast. Okay, I'll subscribe and download it. Or maybe you at Thanksgiving you forcefully subscribe them on their phone. It happens. We all know it happens. But when you start making this a tangible experience, something that they can come and experience and see you perform and see the work that you're putting into this, it becomes so real to them. They value what you're doing so much more. Same with your fans. When they're like, oh my goodness, you're going to be live. I can see you do this live, what you're doing. It becomes something so much more than just getting that download number. And just a few attendees, even right now, if I had 5 sold tickets right now, the way the business model works here, at $10 a piece, that's $50. Half of that goes to the house, half of that goes to the creator. You make $25. So this room right now is as profitable. It's more profitable than 1,000 downloads of an audio podcast. So think about it in a different way. We know cars have different values, right? A 1994 Ford Escort is going to be worth a certain value compared to a 2025 Lamborghini, right? They have different value, different performances. And same thing with shows, same thing with audio media. You go through TikTok, some of you fall asleep to TikTok. I'm guilty. I'll look at 100 videos. I couldn't name one creator. I probably could only name 5% of the videos that I saw. I just consumed and consumed and consumed, and there was no value to it. Same with it, like the downloads that you're getting, there is value. I'm not trying to diminish it, but if you look at the cost per download at 2 cents compared to us hanging out here, we had dinner together, right? We had some drinks, we hung out, we laughed, we did some Q&A. Like if this was a $10 ticket and I would go home with $25, that's a pretty good night. That's better than spending months and months and months building up to 1,000 downloads to get $20. So I did that slide. I didn't even look at it yet. So if you look at we're talking about the value of these cars, a Ford Escort versus a Lamborghini. Well, an in-person attendee is, according to my math, at $10 a ticket, it's 250 times more valuable than an audio download. So if you're a podcaster, maybe you sell other services. I have a great guy coming and doing improv classes who's going to teach how to use improv techniques to be a better host, a better podcaster. He's going to spin that off into weekly classes. So a lot of consultants have a podcast just to get more clients. So if you don't think about the ticket price, think about it as entertaining. This is a more valuable way to reach your fans at lower numbers. And we know the numbers because we see the server logs from Buzzsprout and Libsyn that say 95% of people do not get 1,000 downloads. So, like I said, this is very new. I'm running out of this voice. I only get about an hour of it. So what I'm building here is the bridge, right? For those of you who are podcasting at home, and I have a home studio, I still record 90% of my stuff in my home studio because I know I come home from work, I eat some dinner, I pop into my office, everything's set up. It's safe. It's comfortable. I know it's going to work. I can just go on. I can be guest on shows. I do like 2 or 3 interviews a week on other podcasts. And I know it's going to work and be fine. I don't have to worry about any of the live things, right? The live things are the great variable. There's also these other podcasters who have capitalized on their fame, obviously, and they're doing theaters and they're doing arenas. The problem we have is what's in between the safety of my home office and filling up PPG Paints Arena. There's no middle ground. And I think places like this are what's going to start to pop up and fill in. Podcasting isn't slowing down as far as growth, as far as people getting interested. as far as people seeing the value of being their own media conglomerate. Like you start building this thing, this asset you own 100% control of. You own the audio files. And if you don't like your host anymore, moving from host to host is as easy as putting your email into a new host. They send a verification email, and then once you verify it, they copy everything over. So you're not locked into your podcast. I loved Libsyn. I built 10 years with Libsyn. They were just going in a different direction. I found out about Transistor. I switched over to Transistor. And the reason I never left Libsyn, even though I didn't feel like we were in the same path, I was terrified. I was like, I don't want to move hundreds of episodes. And then finally a friend convinced me, and I said, all right, I'll do it. I'll do it tonight. And I blocked off the whole night to move my host. And I literally entered my email, verified it, and they said, all right, we're downloading all your episodes. They'll be ready in 20 minutes. I was like, that's it? That's all you have to do? So you are in so much control. The hosts are battling for each other. They're battling for your business. And it is so easy to jump from host to host. I'll happily help you because I love it. So my goal is, I want to build this talent, this stage. Like, this should be the Hollywood of podcasting. We should be able to develop enough talent that, if you bring in 5 people the first time, great. Next time we do a show, let's shoot for 10 people. Let's shoot for 20 people. And everything here is designed to be live streamed. So you can get 40 in-person seats. You can do 1,000 virtual seats. So now you can start to see this thing starts to get pretty lucrative pretty fast. I hope you'll join me. I hope this was convincing enough.
I would like to make a custom theme song for this show. A host called Poduty in the news. Each week, the host Jeff Revilla shares news, stories about live podcasting and live streaming. On episode 2, I covered the following topics: setting up your home recording studio on a budget, pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll ad placements, cybersecurity, live podcast. Shaq hosted a live podcast. Shaq hosted a live podcast.